What's going on, everybody? Sawyer here. Um, just finished the trading day today. It is August 15th. So it was a full week of trading for me every day. Working on this Apex account, working on building it slowly but steadily. I've given up on the idea of trying to rush this process and trying to get those home run hits, and I'm just really focusing on keeping the ball in play and slow, steady profits. I've been thinking about this week. I'm kind of going for that like grocery store model where, you go to the grocery store, you pick up something, it's $10, you pick up another thing, it's 20, you pick up a few things for 6, 7, $8. You pick up one thing that's kind of expensive, like a supplement, like 50. Next thing you know, you got like a small basket of things, and you get to the checkout line, and you're like sitting at $150. And you go, I barely even got anything. Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to model my trading after right now, based on the account size that I have. I'm using the 25K account, which is a $1,500 drawdown, which is really the only thing that matters. Because you need to size according to your drawdown. So I'm just trying to get those base hits, and be happy with, even if I end the day with $25 win profit, is kind of a better term. Because I'm trying to get out of the mind state of this having to win, versus losing. Because I've been watching Randy Howell, who has a lot of great videos on YouTube, and he's written some articles that you could pick up, a free ebook. And he just talks a lot about this, our caveman brain, and when basically you're involved in the trade and it's going against you, it's threatening that caveman brain, which is a threat to your survival, and then you start getting emotional and reactive. And when you're so focused on winning, having to win and having to make something happen, it's really a bad way to go if you want to trade the financial markets, because it's not it's just about developing a process and having confidence in yourself to execute it, and the confidence in the actual strategy that you're using, that it's going to have an edge over a series of trades. And if you lose a trade, you lose money. If it's a manageable loss, it's part of your system, then that's kind of a win for you, right? That's a good thing. And you should actually celebrate those. You need to get rid of the sting around those small little losses. Professional traders, they do a trade, it goes against them, and you wouldn't even know it, right? They would just be like, well, we got a little paper cut on that one, it's all right. Basically, you just landed on the wrong side of probability. Anyways, you should check out his videos. I want to make this video about journaling, show you an example of what I did this week, because I was pretty happy about, the length, like the detail that I went into. And I want to bring that lesson moving forward into next week. Basically, I had a trade a few days ago, and I did one trade in the day, and I made like $80. Okay. And I stopped. I did not take any more trades that day. There was trades that set up that I could have taken. And this is something that I kind of dealt with a few times this week, even today, where I kind of saw a trade. I did see a trade setting up, and I just let it pass by. So, that's something I need to work out is when is enough? When should I continue trading? Because sometimes I do kind of get that fear of loss starts to creep in. Like if I made a good profit for the day, I'm just experimenting with just taking that and moving on to the next day. Trying to stack those wins, the winning patterns of getting used to having green days consecutively, instead of trying to take every single trade that comes along, and then, now you're over trading, and commissions and fees are adding up and things of that nature. So this is a balance that you're going to have to work out for yourself. it's kind of a good idea if you hit a good profit target for the day, whatever that is for you. You could take another trade. If you win, you could continue, take another trade. If you win, maybe you want to stop at that point. But basically, if you're at your good profit target for the day, you take a loss. Hopefully, you didn't lose and go into the red, but seriously consider being done at that point or going into sim or something, because you want to keep and build this winning pattern. You don't want to get into where you're at a nice profit for the day, you take a trade, you lose. Now you're like at half the amount of profit that you had before, which is not bad, but then you take another one and now you're red. That could set you off. That could set you on tilt to where you want to go do that thing of, I got to get it back, or I got to get it back to break even. Next thing you know, you just keep losing. And it takes a toll on your mental side of things. Right? So it's just, this is a long game, and it's day after day after day if this is what you're going to do. And you don't have to sit behind the charts the whole US session. A lot of traders, they just trade their 3-hour window or 2 to 3 hour window, and then they're done for the day. Either they took a trade or they didn't. And you need to be okay with not taking a trade. In my early days, I was way over the top. I took so many trades. I just had no clue. And then I would whittle it down to be 5 trades a day. And then, I'm still kind of working out the rhythm. Today, I took a few too many. I'll just give you a quick recap of what I did, and then we'll get into the journaling part and not make this video too long. So here's an example of how the day went for me today. I took a first trade this morning. It was a good trade. I got $35 profit on it. Okay, this is on 2 micro NASDAQ. It took me a minute. Literally, I was in and out in less than 2 minutes. And when you think about that, most people don't even earn $30 in an hour, right? You have a job and you earn $30 in an hour, they would say that's not bad, right? For most people. I just earned over $30 in less than 2 minutes. I could have been done for the day. And in fact, I watched a few trades run without me. Okay. And then towards the end of the day, some news started coming out, the Trump and Putin thing, and then the options expirations, and then some trades looked like they were really setting up. And I got cut up a little bit, went into the red. I ended the day up at a loss for $40. Okay. So I would have been better just to stop with my first trade, which is again a new rule that I'm working on implementing. Is if I get a great trade first thing in the morning, it might be better just to leave it at that and be done for the day. Because so many times I've had a great trade first thing in the morning, and then the next one I lose a little bit, and then I start to get a little bit irritated, start over trading. Fees and commissions add up. You take a couple losses along the way, and I either end the day basically at break even or at a little bit of a loss or kind of close to where I started. And it's just the amount of energy that takes is not worth it. So I'm really working on just preserving that energy, staying in an emotionally neutral state throughout the day, which is very important. Today I started almost getting a little irritated at a certain point because the market was just whipping around, and I shouldn't really have been as involved as I was during that time when it was whipping around on some of those the options expirations and then the Trump and Putin meeting. So that's a little lesson that I learned today, and these videos are part of my journaling process. This freaking dog out here. But so that's kind of what I'm doing. This is kind of just a verbal journaling process, and hopefully it helps other people just to get a realistic picture of what a day-to-day life is like of somebody kind of going through the learning curve of getting to where I want to be as a market operator. And it's just, there's just a lot of fakers out there and a lot of people who I don't know what's going on with it. I learned from some of the best traders in the world, Linda Raschke's, Mark Minervini's, Paul Tudor Jones, Charlie Munger, all these people, and it's all about the long game. Linda Rashke's husband, he was a trader, and he was like a break-even trader for his first 2 years. Then he went on to, work with Paul Tudor Jones and a lot of the, Victor Niederhofer's brother, and a lot of other mega traders. I mean, these are billionaire people. So don't be discouraged if you're, a break-even trader after a year or 2 years. That's kind of where I'm at right now, is like I've been trading futures a year and a half, and I'm getting to the point of breaking even consistently, which is fantastic. I'm having less tilt days. Okay. I'm cutting my losses quicker. I'm getting a better idea of how to manage and control that risk so that trades don't get out of hand on me. So that's a huge step in the right direction. I'm occasionally getting that big win. I'm getting more base hits consistently, and gaining confidence in my process and my ability to execute it and not sabotage myself. Okay. These are all the things that you got to deal with. Like when you start doing this, it's not a regular job. You're not going to expect to earn $150 every day, or $2,000 a month. Those are fine goals, but you really should get to the point. And this is something I watched this new lady, her channel online, and she made some fantastic videos. I'll mention her at a different point. She recommended this book, Transurfing Reality. And one of the ideas in that was like this pendulum thing, and then how when we attach such an importance to something, like we need it, we're almost desperate for it, that it resists you, it runs away from you. And for so long, when I've been doing this, I've put so much emphasis on the money, right? Because I've gone through very stressful periods of time where I didn't have money coming in, and it was, I take responsibility for it because I thought I could make this work. And the timeline that I had, basically with the money that I had, like the runway, it didn't work. I ran out of money. And it just compounded the stress and the importance that I was putting on earning this money, when the entire time, if you're going to grow at this, you just simply need to focus on becoming a better trader. And I know that sounds simple and maybe even ridiculous, but you need to say, to hell with the money. I want to be good at this. I want to develop this skill. I want to be good at trying to understand where the market wants to go and how I'm going to fit into that with a consistent strategy. And focus on building good habits and executing your plan the same way every time, day in, day out, and avoiding those unforced errors, the big losses, the execution errors. You put on 10 micros when you meant to put on 1 micro. Okay, you didn't put in a stop, and now your computer shut down in the middle of a trade, and now you're sitting at a big loss and hoping that it's going to come back. All these things are they're avoidable. The computer shutting down might not be avoidable, but I use bracket orders. So as soon as I enter, there's a stop and there's a target, and I can adjust them. So I'd recommend you use those as well. They're also called OCO orders. One cancels the other. That eliminates a lot of execution unforced errors as well, because if your stop is hit, your target's taken out. You're out of the market. You have no more resting orders. Like another unforced error would be, you forgot you have a resting order in the market. It gets filled. Now you're in a position you didn't even intend to be in. So it's like you need to get rid of all that stuff and just focus on those base simple hits. So let me just show you an example of some of my journaling that I did this week, and then we'll cut this video short because I know that, the audio is probably not great. I don't do editing right now. I want to work on getting these videos better and more engaging, but, if you don't start somewhere, you never get anywhere. So, like, this is an example of what my journal looks like. So that was one trade, right? And it even went on to the back side of this, where I like to draw them out sometimes. And basically the idea is describing everything you can. And by me only taking one trade that day, it helped me out a lot, because I had a lot of time while I was watching the markets to observe that trade and write down every detail, whatever the market was doing, what the time of day was, how many lots I put on, um, why I entered the trade. So I like, just for an example, why I entered the trade: steep 1 minute 9-3 divergence, oversold 44 1 minute, running 9-3 divergence on the 5 minute. I entered on a turn up with a 44 divergence on the 5 minute. There was a quad on the 5 minutes. These are all stochastic terms. You don't need to get too lost in the details, but this is just an example of, targeted inside of the pocket. It did sweep the previous high. So basically my trade ended up continuing on pretty big in the direction after I was already out of it. I doubled my size when my stochastic solidified and it was going my way, which I am happy that I did that. I trade 2 micro NASDAQs. That's my base size. And when something really sets up very nicely and is already in the profit, I will add to it either 1 or 2 micro NASDAQs. That's the way that I do it. I never dollar cost average, and that just means if I'm negative, if I'm in the red on a trade, I'm never adding to it. I'm either thinking about cutting the size down or exiting altogether before my stop gets hit. Now could be a double-edged sword, because sometimes your stop doesn't get hit, you take a loss, it goes your direction, you enter in again, and now you're a little bit emotional and you don't manage the trade properly, etc. So, describe everything. Describe how you're feeling in the moment when you take the trade. Were you breathing? Practice breathing when you enter a trade, the diaphragmatic breathing, like get that air really in the belly and fill up and just breathe out, okay? Because it's going to trigger like just biological responses to release stress while you're in the trade and allow it to work as it's supposed to, instead of like white knuckling it and hovering over the screen like this, like, oh my God, because it's just never going to go good. So practice that. Sometimes people break out a video camera and video camera themselves while they're in a trade to see how are you like getting all tense in your face? Are you sitting on the edge of your seat? Are you shallow breathing? Like this is the level of detail you need to go into when you're journaling, and you could do it in the moment. Some people don't recommend it, or you could do it after you exit the trade and then review it. That might be a better way, just so you're not distracted with writing things. Or you know what, maybe that might help you if you distract yourself a little bit writing, letting the trade play out. These are all things that you're going to have to find out for yourself, and that's why the learning curve can take so long, because there's a lot of things that are going to be unique to you. That there's so much. Basically every trader out there, like when you get into the literature and the videos, they're all saying the same thing, right? There's nothing really hidden in this game, unless there's people like George Soros who know things that the rest of us don't, and he's able to really just manipulate the markets in an incredible way. But that doesn't matter. All that matters is there's all these cliches, there's all the basic stuff that you're going to hear that traders tell you, and some of it is going to hinder your progress, and some of it might be exactly what you need to hear. Basically, you just have to develop an independent mind, and you have to review your own performance with like incredible scrutiny and try to observe just what's actually happening here in the market, not what I want to happen or hope to happen, what's actually happening, and let your brain work. And stop saying, I don't know. Stop saying, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know where I'm going wrong. I keep losing. Like, I can't do anything right. Because these are all things that traders have thought along the journey. It can be very difficult at points. But by doing that, you're shutting your brain down to actually provide you with those answers that are there. So just ask, what happened here? What went right? What went wrong? What could I have done better? how could I improve my execution on the next time? Or, if a trade went against you, was there something I missed here that could help me avoid it next time? This is all the work that you need to do. It's mostly this instead of just technical analysis and clicking a button. It's the review, the honesty, the um, the journaling, so that and the tracking. So you need to track your stats very well, and the main stats you need to track are your average gain, average loss, and your batting average, which is how many times you win or lose. This week I was 50-50, not great. I would like to be up to like 60 to 70% range at least. And I was slightly profitable this week. I made like literally $35. So I should celebrate that though. To a lot of people out here, we're just so used to, I just made $5,000 a day or make $10,000 a day trading. I don't know how true that stuff is. I know there are people making that type of money, but don't be discouraged if you just broke even for the week. That's a win, and you should be happy about that. Last week I made literally like $3. But you know what? That's 2 profitable weeks in a row. I'm profitable this month, a little over $100. That's great. I'm making progress. I'm keeping the ball in play, and I'm taking small steps forward. Like, that's literally profitability. I'm technically profitable this month. There you go. Be happy about that. If I get sad about that, I only made 100. Now I'm reinforcing negative, like, emotion associated with being profitable. It's not enough. That's a bad way to go. Okay? So you need to reduce the sting around losing, and you need to increase the celebration and feeling good around those small wins, because that's how you make progress. So I think that's all I got for this video, guys. I want to keep making these better and making them more engaging for you guys. If you have any tips, I need to learn how to do the visuals and show you guys my charts while I'm maybe in the down bottom screen. Don't even know how to do that. I have a microphone. I need to figure out how to connect it to the phone and audio properly. So yeah, I got my work cut out for me. But anyways, I hope I shared something that's helpful for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to hear in the future. I got some videos lined up for possibly next week. And yeah, wish you the best. Talk to you soon.